I'm excited to be here with all of you today. Before we dive into the presentation, though, I'd like to share with you just a quick overview of the firm that I am so tremendously proud to represent, Franklin Templeton, and our ambition, which is to be your trusted partner for what's ahead. And what we mean by that is, for the past over 7 decades, we've been bringing specialized investment managers all under one roof. So that means for you and your financial professional, one relationship with access to multiple specialized managers across private and public markets. And more than just the specialized investment managers, we are working to be your strategic partner for what's ahead. We are also working to be dedicated to helping you with cutting-edge technology, whether it's in the markets or in technology itself. And we're also focused on bringing you insights on how to better position yourself for long-term financial success. And that's where my department comes in. Not only do I proudly represent Franklin Templeton, I represent the Franklin Templeton Academy. And my team, what we do is we deliver value-add practice management concepts to financial professionals all across the globe. We also offer some content to investors like you. And we're really proud of the fact that over the past 3 years, we've been able to reach over 150 financial professionals and their clients in 30 countries and in 16 different languages. We do this in workshops, we do webinars, we do main stage events like this one. We're also working to develop content on demand. And Franklin Templeton does this because we are focused on truly being your trusted partner for what's ahead. Now, let's dive into the presentation today. And I'm going to start this presentation with a question, something to think about. How many living generations of humans are there in the world today? How many living generations of humans are there in the world today? I hear somebody shouted out 4. Thank you for shouting out. I see hands going up for 4. It's actually double that. It's 8. It's the greatest generation, the silent generation, baby boomers, Generation X, millennials, Gen Z, Generation Alpha, and then there's that 8th generation. That 8th generation is the one being born today, or as of the beginning of this year of 2025. That's Generation Beta. But you see, with each new generation, there are going to be new priorities and new principles and new products to get them financially to where they want to go. And that will inevitably influence how we all connect and manage this wealth. Our presentation today is called The Intergenerational Divide. And our purpose with this presentation is to share ideas on building a bridge to the next generation. Now, I'm going to caveat to you right now. A lot of the numbers you're going to see here are based on statistics from the United States. Some of them are global, and we've added in some for Brazil. I'm also going to caveat to you that this presentation was originally developed for financial professionals, but they've said, you know what, we want our investors to see this too. So let's start with really why we even started having this conversation. And that is because if you have browsed through any financial publication lately, you've seen those headlines for the great wealth transfer and how trillions of dollars are set to change hands over the next 25 years. These are the most updated statistics. $105 trillion is projected to change hands across the globe over the next 25 years. Of that, the majority of that first is going to transfer horizontally to spouses that outlive their counterparts. And then it's going to go vertically to heirs. Over $100 trillion. Think about that. We're not talking about just 1 million from one family to another, or even $1 billion from one family to another. Over 100 trillion. Just 1 trillion is 1,000 billion. We're talking about over $100 trillion. But if we really think about it, and for ourselves, What does that mean for us? What does that mean for our families? Have you set your heirs up? Who is going to be your most likely inheritor of your assets? And that's what we're going to talk about today. And here's our agenda. We have a quick 3-part agenda for you. We will begin by describing generational wealth complexities and their impact on relationships. We'll then recognize how to better connect with those investors in your family in different generations, or with your partners or with your spouses. And then the third section is more of an idea, and that's holding a family meeting with your financial professional. One of the best ways for you to prepare your wealth to transfer to your partner, your spouse, your next generation. So let's start with where the wealth is today. And now these are going to be statistics starting in the United States. And to see how wealth is moving, we first took a look at 2013 because we wanted to look at a 10-year period. Now, Brazil is pretty similar to this, but the statistics in the United States are easier and faster for us to get. When we took a look at 2013, we could see that baby boomers and the silent generation, they dominated. And that's a lot of trillions, right? Fast forward 10 years, and we see that shift. We can see that the silent generation is on the descent, and that makes sense as a natural progression. But we see baby boomers and we see Gen X on the ascent, steadily accumulating wealth. We just identified that there are 8 living generations, right? 8 living generations today. There's only 4 here. So where are those other 4 living generations? Well, they're not on there yet. They're purposefully not on there yet because they don't have enough money yet. But they will be on there. They will be on there in 10 years. They will be on there in 20 years. It is said that in the Americas of the whole globe, that is where we will see the biggest wealth transfer. Now, all baby boomers, as of the end of last year, 2024, were officially in their senior ranks, which puts baby boomers at all phases of retirement, right? Of accumulation, of transition, and of decumulation. The following generation, Gen X, they today are between 44 and 60 years old, so still in the wealth accumulation phase. Because of these different phases, the majority of that wealth transfer is yet to occur, right? Well, if we take a look at our couple here on the slide, they're baby boomers, right? And that baby boomer generation across the globe today, they hold 3/4 of the assets. But change is coming because it is said that the baby boomer generation is set to have the largest generational wealth transfer that we have ever seen. From baby boomers, more than 53 trillion today. It's even more than this. So how are you prepared for that wealth transfer? All right, let's also talk about women, because there has been a generational wealth transfer between men and women for years. For this conversation's purpose, we almost consider women their own generation, because naturally women outlive their male counterparts. Now, statistics in the United States say that women will outlive their male counterpart by 6 years. 6 years. Now, I think about that, and for me personally, I'm a woman and I am married, and my husband, Eric, he's almost 5 years older than I am. So if statistically I'm going to outlive him by 6 years, and then if I add in that 5-year age gap, well, that means that a study would project that I'm going to live for 11 years without him. 11 years. Now I just wish I'd met and married him sooner. Maybe I should have married younger, but don't ever tell him that. In Brazil, that number is just a tad bit higher. It is projected that women in Brazil will outlive their male counterparts by 7 years. So, ladies, what are your needs? What are your needs likely going to be? How are those needs going to be met? How is that going to be accomplished? And gentlemen, who's going to take care of the women in your lives that you love? Are you planning for that? How will you accomplish that? It's said that women in the United States today are controlling $12 trillion in assets, and by 2030 will control the majority of the baby boomer assets. So let's get to know what we're hearing from the majority of women when it comes to their financial goals. Now, quick background here on this slide. For the past few years, my company, Franklin Templeton, has been doing in-depth research of diverse investors, affluent diverse investors from different backgrounds, different professional experiences, all with the purpose of understanding what they look for in investments, how they can partner better with their financial advisor and feel that trust and that confidence. And if you're wondering to yourself, why is Franklin Templeton interested in this information? I thought you were an asset manager. We care about this information because it's going to impact you. And when it impacts you, it also impacts us. When we took a look at affluent women over 50 and we asked them about their top financial goals, this is what we found. And you know what? Let me caveat to you. I am at the mercy of very talented instructional designers who build these presentations that I get to share all across my country, the United States, and sometimes across the globe like this. I don't know why they chose these images to represent affluent women, but this is what they gave me, so that's what we're working with. So let's start with our lady over here on the left. She looks happy, right? Looks like she's doing a little dance. You know, I bet I know what it is. I bet she just inherited $1 million from her mother, and now she can maintain her current lifestyle in retirement. One of the top financial goals of affluent women over 50 today. When it comes to inheriting millions, I also found that Brazil is projected to have the most new millionaires in the future. The second most important goal for affluent women investors over 50, we found was savings to cover long-term health expenses for themselves. And then third was financial freedom to enjoy life. Now, when we compare this to the affluent general population, the goals were pretty much the same, except for these women, they ranked these goals even higher. So that means we can see a theme here. We see a theme of independence, of dignity, quality of life through these goals. Now, when it comes to what we found that women are looking for in partnering with a financial professional, we found it's someone who's sensitive to their risk tolerance. We found that it's how experienced the professional is and how suitable the recommendations are. Talk to your Avenue Securities professional about what's important to you. Maybe this is it. Maybe it's something else. Again, what are your needs? How's that going to be accomplished? How are you going to make that happen? Now, for this conversation's purposes, like I mentioned, we're almost considering women their own generation. So before we move on to the next generation, we found that it was important to point out a study that was recently done, and they called it the head versus the heart challenge. Head versus heart. But what they were really pointing out is the way that baby boomers have prioritized their strategies in investing is going to be very different from the next generation. So whether it's your kid or your grandkid who's going to inherit those assets, their strategy is going to be very different. We found that millennials, they are prioritizing purpose and impact in investing. It's in ways that no generation has before. So it's important to remember that as we have these conversations with our family members on how we're going to transition this wealth. Now let's talk about that next generation now. Perhaps the biggest component of the great wealth transfer that is in all of the financial news, trillions of dollars set to change hands. And whether I like it or not, I am a millennial. I'm a millennial. You may not believe me. I would hope that you would believe me. I am somewhere on this slide. With those age ranges, one day I won't be in that age range very soon, but I will of course remain within this generation. Millennials were born between 1981 and 1996. They are said to be our future wealthiest generation. Some statistics say that it could be $73 trillion that lands in the laps of millennials. We also found that it was worth noting that millennials, they grew in net worth They doubled in net worth between 2020 and 2023. And today, we found in the US, they make up a fifth of our population. Same goes for here in Brazil. Now, when it comes to our study results, when we studied affluent millennials, we found that 64%, they don't currently work with a financial professional, but they said they'd embrace paying for that financial advice. Introduce your kids to the financial professional at Avenue Securities that you work with. And when we found the reasons why they are seeking that advice, they said that it's exploring savings and investments. It's seeking retirement planning help. And it's wanting to invest but not self-manage. If you're a financial professional in this room, do you do that? Yeah. Do you do that well? Yeah. That's why you're here. That's why you've invited your guests here today. Now, when it comes to the top financial goals of millennials, this is what we found. The first was maintaining their current lifestyle in retirement. Second was providing for family members. And third was the financial freedom to enjoy life. This was similar to the affluent general population, but there were some differences. While these were the top goals, maintaining current lifestyle in retirement on the left and financial freedom to enjoy life on the right, they did come in a bit lower. Something else that also came in noticeably lower was here on this slide. And I usually would ask this as a quiz or a question. Anybody, are you guys open to showing your hands and voting on what you think from this list millennials chose as less important? Maybe some head nods? Okay, let me ask this. Okay, from this list, and let me just read them off for us first. Building and maintaining an emergency fund, saving for future home ownership, or funding the higher education of family. Show of hands if you think what was less important of those three was building and maintaining an emergency fund. Some hands going up. Okay, yeah, thanks for playing along. How about saving for future home ownership? Even more hands going up. Okay, how about funding the higher education of family? We've got a very divided room here. Thank you all for playing along. We found that it was building and maintaining an emergency fund. That came in as 20% less important for millennials. Now, we found that they do want to save for the homes that they're going to bring their families into. They also want to save for the education for the children that they're having. But building and maintaining an emergency fund, well, that's not really a retirement plan. You also can't really have one without the other. What happens if an investor fails to build and then maintain that emergency fund? That's financial literacy 101. What happens in that scenario? Likely a lot of bad things, right? What do you think their prior generations would say? What do you think their grandparents would say, or that silent generation would say? This should be a top goal of millennials, if not one of the most important goals. And when it comes to what we found that they're looking for in that financial professional, it's someone who understands their needs, treats them like they are important, and has experience in alternative types of investments. This is different from prior generations. If you're a millennial here today, talk to your financial professional about what's important to you. Build that connection early so that you can develop that successful long-term plan. Now, this slide is more so geared towards financial professionals, but the idea here is to build those stronger connections with millennials so that they do have that emergency fund built and maintained and that they can achieve those long-term goals. So we'll go ahead and skip to the next generation here. Generation Z. Generation Z, Gen Z, iPhone generation, generation tablet, call them what you will. They are inheriting our world. This is the generation born between 1997 and 2012. And here's what we know about this generation. First, they are more diverse than any prior generation. And they are more tech savvy than any prior generation. They grew up with a smartphone in their hand. They don't know a world without technology. And we found that by the end of this year, they are projected to make up a quarter of our global workforce. Currently, they represent more than a third of the population here in Brazil. Yes, they are young, but they are not all babies, not anymore. We found that over half of them are already investing, and those that are investing started investing before their 18th birthday. And the last thing on this younger generation is their top financial goals. When we studied this generation, this is what we found as their top financial goals. It's having enough money to vacation, to travel, probably do all those things they see others doing when they're looking at their smartphone, right? It's saving for unexpected expenses. They're doing better than millennials here. And then it's being able to retire when they want to and be able to live comfortably. If you are Generation Z or you have Generation Z family members here in the group, be sure that they are prepared for their future financial success. All right. Now we've talked about women investors. We've talked about millennials. We've talked about Generation Z. Let's switch gears here for a moment. How many of you are on a first name basis with your financial professional? Probably all of us, right? We should be. Now, ask yourself this. How many of your family members are also on a first name basis with your financial professional at Avenue Securities? If they're not on a first name basis, they should be. Your family members are going to inherit your hard-earned assets. They should be on a first name basis. And the best way for you to make that happen is to bring them into the meetings, to hold family meetings. And there's 4 types of family meetings we're seeing a lot of success with in the United States. I'm going to walk through these very quickly. But note, we have resources for you for financial professionals after this presentation. We also have client use resources as well, or investor resources. So we'll begin first with the strategic meeting. Imagine it's a beautiful, sunny Friday afternoon. It's lunchtime, and you've just arrived at your favorite restaurant in town. You've got a reservation in the private room with your family and your financial professional. The setting is ideal, and you're getting ready to kind of bridge that intergenerational wealth divide. Now, this is the agenda. Franklin Templeton has done a lot of the work for you. It's going to start with an introduction of everyone at that table. Introduce your family members. And then you can discuss an overview of plans and intentions with assets, of specific roles and responsibilities you may want your family members to play in your financial future. You can discuss important documents, general wishes, intentions with property or with assets. You can also talk ongoing financial communication with the advisor moving forward. And before this meeting, be sure that your financial professional at Avenue knows who's going to come and sit down with at that table so they can better connect with each of them. The second sample family meeting, this would be around navigating your future and preparing for where you plan to live well into retirement in your later years in life. Because wherever you plan to live in your latest years in life, someone's going to have to help you. Someone in your family, whether it's you're living and aging in place in your home, or maybe you're moving to a continuing care retirement community, wherever that may be, somebody that loves you is going to need to stop by and help you take care of some things. So in this conversation with your family and your financial professional, you want to make sure that everyone has come to an agreement on who in the family is around, who's capable, who's available to help you with that longer term goal. You know, in my family, I live in the United States. I live in Florida, where a lot of people like to move to retire. My parents live in another state. They live in Tennessee. Just to drive to get to them is a 12-hour drive. My brother and his wife, the cutest nephews I have, they live in New York. So it's in the United States, Florida, and then Tennessee, and then New York. It's not easy for us to be in close proximity. But you know what? If my parents tell me, Amy, we want to age in place in our home, or wherever that may be, I will make a commitment to them to help make that happen. And my brother Aaron and I, from Florida and New York, we will have to hire people and work with their financial professional to make sure that those wishes happen for them. So with your family, be sure that everyone is involved in this conversation, because your heirs are likely going to need to work with your financial professional in the future. And this doesn't need to be an emotional conversation. It doesn't need to be morbid or sad. This is a conversation about you maintaining control and maintaining dignity as you age. Now, the third sample meeting is the investment philosophy meeting. And this is a meeting around really discussing with your family and your financial professional your investment philosophy, your approach to how you've managed your family's hard-earned assets. Let me also caveat, for all of these meetings, none of these meetings have to be actual asset amounts shared. These don't have to be meetings where your heirs are showing up to learn how much they're going to inherit one day. It doesn't have to be about that. But you can talk about philosophy, investment philosophy. You can talk strategy. You can talk goals, and you can talk ongoing communication with the financial professional too. And then the fourth sample family meeting. We're on the home stretch here, and that is around crafting a purpose and developing a family mission statement, which is really why you're all here. What have you accomplished? What do you hope to accomplish in life and as a family? And what type of legacy would you like to pass to future generations? And we have the family meeting agenda with the financial professional here. But you know what I usually tell my clients in the United States, if you think about it, if you think about any entity, any foundation, any pension plan that cares for thousands of lives, you would see that they have an investment policy statement, an IPS, right? They have an investment policy statement. Or a lot of times I'll use the example of the Yale Endowment. In the United States, everybody knows the Yale Endowment, which is invested, I think, $40 billion, something like that today. And they did that with the intention of intergenerational equity. So why don't we all learn from the biggest and the best institutions? What are the biggest and the best institutions in the world doing? Why don't we learn from them and bridge that gap and bring that to our own families? And that starts with the family mission statement. And here for this meeting, this is going to be more of a brainstorming type of meeting, where you and your loved ones with your financial professional are really going to talk about what values you share, what unifies you as a family, what brings you together. And that's going to be unique to your family. For some families, we find it's success. For some, it's education. For some, it's philanthropy. For some, it's political agendas. For some, it's social agendas. With your family, you want to create a statement that is concise and is meaningful to everyone. And we have sample mission statements here too. We don't need to read both of these, but let's just take a look at this sample number one, and I'll read just number one here. It says, our family believes that education is imperative and was a key factor leading to our success and happiness. We pledge to support each other in the continued pursuit of learning, as well as support the educational institutions that share our values. What resonates with your family? Because when the mission statement is weaved into the fabric of your life as a family, everyone benefits. Your family and the legacy of you. Now, we've walked really quickly through all four of these sample family meetings. When you start to hold these family meetings, it positions your financial strategy and your legacy for your family for success. So really identify the opportunities for you to bring the family members that should be involved in this conversation to the table. How many meetings work for you and your family to map this out, to map out this plan? And Be sure that when you do meet, make sure everyone is comfortable. Encourage participation from all family members, just like that mission statement. Be sure that that plan resonates with everyone. Now, I mentioned Franklin Templeton has put all of this information together in a really nice package. What would a presentation be without a QR code, right? Here's ours. I'll leave that up there. Hopefully you can access that information. If for any reason that requires a login and you can't access that information, note that we have a booth here just outside. My friends and my colleagues are at that booth. So whether it's to access that information or just to go by and say hi, go by and say hi to Luis and to Felipe and let them know that you enjoyed this presentation if you did. Also, let them know if you would like access to other presentations that we offer through the Franklin Templeton Academy. Now, on the left, these resources, they were originally designated for financial professionals, but we just walked you through those resources, those agendas of what those meetings should look like. And over here on the right, these are tools for you. These are tools for you. For example, the air preparation packet. For example, if and when something happens to you one day, this is a document for your loved ones to know how to access all of your important information, your financial information, your insurance information, your medical information, your key accounts, your digital passwords. This is a document that you are going to want to keep to yourself. Hold that document private, but the family should know how to access it should they need it. Now, for me, growing up in the Osborne household, whenever I was a little girl, my parents liked to take weekend getaways. They would travel. They would leave me and my brother with a babysitter, or our grandmother would come and keep us. And it was my mother who left this type of information in a sealed document on her beautiful mahogany dresser in my parents' bedroom. And boy, was that document sealed. She had it sealed, she had it taped, and then she had it stickered. And I'll never forget those stickers. They were flowers with a smiley face on the inside. She was going to know if someone had opened that envelope. And I'll never forget what was written on the front of that envelope. In my mother's beautiful handwriting, she had written, "Only to be opened in the event of our death." My heart would race anytime I came near that envelope. I dread the day. It gives me chills to tell you. I dread the day I'm going to have to open it in the future because my parents are alive and well today. This is something that you are going to want to take your time to fill out and keep it private, but your family should know where it is and how to access it should something ever happen. So again, as I said, Franklin Templeton has put all of this information together in a really nice package for you. If you've accessed that online, download that document. If not, if you can't access it, stop by our booth, say hello. These are the 4 sample family meetings that we walked through today. Everything we have shared in this presentation is with the intention of helping you bridge that intergenerational divide and set your families up for longer term success. Now, I'll say too that I've greatly enjoyed preparing this presentation for you. As I was preparing this presentation, it really struck me that this conversation, it's a few degrees of separation from stocks, from bonds, from asset allocation, from investing, right? But this is life. And that's really what we all need to be thinking about, right? When life comes up, we want your family to be prepared. We want your family to be able to give that wonderful legacy of you. So as we wrap up, a lot of these next steps were written out for financial professionals. As we wrap up, whether you're a financial professional in the room or an investor, I'd like to ask you to think about one takeaway from this presentation that you'll leave with. Whether it's a new conversation with your financial advisor at Avenue Securities, or with your child on their investment plan, or making sure your millennial children are maintaining that emergency fund. whatever it is, I'd encourage you to write down something that you would take away from this presentation. And as you do that, I'm going to wrap up by reading something to you. And I don't usually like to read in a presentation like this, but this was shared with me recently, and I found it really resonated. So check this out. In order to be born, you needed 2 parents, you needed 4 grandparents, you needed 8 great-grandparents, 16 second great-grandparents, 32 third great-grandparents, 64 fourth great-grandparents, 128 fifth great-grandparents. I'm going to skip on down to 12 previous generations. For you to be born today from 12 previous generations, you needed a total sum of 4,094 ancestors over the last 400 years. Think for a moment. How many struggles? How many battles? How many difficulties? How much sadness? How many love stories? And how many expressions of hope for the future did your ancestors have to undergo for you to exist in this present moment? When we started this conversation, we identified how many living generations there are in the world today, right? There's 8. So while generations of people will come and generations of people will go, there is one person that can bridge all of those generations in your family. And today, that person is you. Thank you.